Carol Danvers being taken to Hala in the 90s, or even with Steve Rogers volunteering for the Super Soldier program in the 40s.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe started as a long, straight road, and I explained it in just 14 minutes. For a while, it felt like one story leading to one ending, just bigger with each film, louder with each villain, and always pointed in a single direction. Then, all of a sudden, it stopped being a road at all. Now it's something else entirely, like a map, maybe, or a web, stretching out in every direction at once, tangled and infinite. Essentially, the MCU Multiverse isn't just a new phase of storytelling. It's a fun way of thinking about what stories are allowed to be.
And Kang are going to be at the center of it. So, Victor Timely just exploded into space ribbons.
Now, did the MCU Multiverse begin with explosions or dramatic reveals? Nope. On the contrary, the idea of the multiverse entered the MCU quietly, almost like a whisper behind the main story. In Doctor Strange, 2016, the Ancient One says that what we call reality is only one of many layers.
She has defended Earth from interdimensional threats, mastered multiple forms of sorcery, and can bend space, time, and reality at will. Her abilities allow her to manipulate energy, foresee possible futures, and fight without ever engaging physically.
Back then, it seemed like just a throwaway line because, of course, it sounded like a mystical set dressing for a film about mirror dimensions and time loops. But looking back, it turns out that it was the first real admission that Marvel's cinematic world wasn't confined to a single version of events. There was more out there. The story just hadn't looked there yet. For a few more years, the films continued forward in a straight line. Even when they dabbled in time travel, as Avengers Endgame did, it felt like a detour, not a shift. But Endgame quietly laid the groundwork. The Avengers don't just move through time, they disrupt it. So, when they remove the Infinity Stones from their original places, they leave behind branch timelines, each one its own fully formed reality.
The Infinity Stones bind the universe together, creating what you experience as the flow of time. When you remove one of these stones, this flow splits. Your timeline might benefit, but my new one would definitely not. For every stone that you remove, you create new, very vulnerable timelines. Millions will suffer.
And we can't take the stones.
Yet your world depends on it.
That concept lands with the Ancient One's explanation. Remove a stone, and the timeline splits. Return it, and the balance is restored. It's a neat solution for a messy plot problem, but it also suggests something huge. There's no single history. There are infinite ones. Surely that realization lingers in the background for a long time until Loki. That show doesn't suggest alternate realities. It shows them, names them, gives them faces and feelings and fears. For instance, Loki introduces the Time Variance Authority, a bureaucratic organization that maintains the sacred timeline, pruning any branches that form when people make the wrong choices. From the first episode, it becomes clear that this isn't just about time. It's about control, about who gets to decide which version of reality is allowed to exist.
I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
Fahimdi. این دیخ دوستی؟
Never mind. Don't touch that.
Appears to be a standard sequence violation. Branches growing at a stable rate and slope. Variant identified.
I beg your pardon.
On behalf of the Time Variance Authority, I hereby arrest you for crimes against the sacred timeline. Hands up. You're coming with us.
I'm sorry, who's us?
Last chance variant.
It's been a very long day, and I think I've had my fill of idiots in armored suits telling me what to do, so if you don't mind, this is actually your last chance. Now get out of my way.
And at the center of it all is Loki himself, the very god of mischief now reimagined as a man who has to look at other versions of himself and ask whether he's doomed to be the villain. He meets other Lokis, child Lokis, boastful Lokis, even an alligator Loki, and slowly understands that identity isn't fixed. It changes with context. Every variant is a reflection of a different choice, a different path. The multiverse isn't chaos, it's potential.
What is this place? Where are we? Who are you?
This is the void, that's Goliath. We're his lunch. Come on!
If you're Loki's, you should always have a plan. Will someone please explain to me what the hell is going on? All I know is I got pruned, and I woke up here, and now I'm surrounded by variants of myself.
Then comes He Who Remains, a variant of Kang the Conqueror, who appears at the end of Loki to explain the bigger picture. He Who Remains is not a god or a wizard. He's a man who's seen the consequences of letting the multiverse run free. He tells of a war between his variants, each one determined to dominate the others, and how he ended it by collapsing reality down to a single timeline. It's a shocking twist. This whole time, the MCU has been shaped by one man's decision to prevent multiversal war, and now, with his death, that decision unravels. The multiverse fractures, literally.
Okay. So, seems you figured it all out. Tell me, how is Victor Timely?
Of course you know about him.
Wait, don't tell me. You're having some problems with the temporal loom.
Scaling problem.
Scaling problem, that's what he told you? Victor told you it was a scaling problem. Wow. No, there's no problem.
It destroyed the TVA.
The temporal loom is a failsafe. When the loom is overloaded with branches, it deletes the ones that aren't supposed to be there.
You might be wondering what effect this had on the whole timeline. Well, that fracture ripples across the next films, but it hits especially hard in Spider-Man: No Way Home. In that story, a single spell gone wrong tears open the walls between universes, and suddenly Peter Parker is no longer the only Spider-Man on screen. Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield swing back into view, bringing with them decades of cinematic history. This isn't just a crossover, it's a statement. The MCU is acknowledging that all of it counts, every version, every reboot, every abandoned storyline. None of it has to be thrown away. It can all coexist. And yet, No Way Home doesn't lose itself in the spectacle. At its core, it's a tragedy. Peter tries to fix everything, to save villains from their fates, to give everyone a second chance. And in doing so, he loses almost everything that matters to him. That's the real cost of the multiverse, not just cosmic risk, but personal consequence. It's like the more you try to hold on to every possible outcome, the more you stand to lose the one that matters most. In Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, that danger becomes something darker. Doctor Strange, still struggling with the aftermath of No Way Home, is pulled into a series of realities where every rule can be rewritten. One world is peaceful but hollow. Another is decaying and empty. Still another is run by a council of heroes, the Illuminati, who turned on their own when things went too far. In each universe, Strange sees different versions of himself, some noble, some monstrous. The message is clear that even heroes can become threats when they believe their version of reality is the only one that should survive.
Someone once told me that the reality I thought I knew was just one of many.
But in all of this, It's Wanda who steals the story. Grieving her children from WandaVision, she becomes the Scarlet Witch, willing to rip holes through the multiverse to find a version of her life where they still exist. Her arc is not about villainy in the usual sense. It's about longing and the refusal to let go. That grief becomes an existential threat. The multiverse offers a dangerous promise. What if everything you lost still exists, just out of reach? Would you stop at anything to get it back?
Wanda, Black Bolt could destroy you with one whisper from his mouth.
What mouth?
The animated What If series explores this question from dozens of angles. Each episode asks how a small change could remake the world. What if Peggy Carter took the super serum? What if T'Challa became Star-Lord? What if Ultron won? Some episodes are playful, others devastating, but all of them share a single idea. The multiverse isn't just a playground. It's a record of choices. More of a way to look at familiar characters and ask what shaped them and what might have been different.
Within 24 hours, the entire Pacific Northwest was infected. Ironically, it was the Avengers' heroism that sealed humanity's fate.
On my mark, out!
Still, the multiverse isn't just a creative device. Nah. It's become a core part of the MCU's internal logic. With Loki Season 2 and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the character of Kang emerges fully, now not just one man but a multiversal threat made up of infinite versions. Unlike Thanos, who represented inevitability, Kang represents variability. There's no one plan, no one version of events. There are hundreds, thousands, each with its own Kang, and each one convinced it's the rightful version. He's not just fighting heroes, he's fighting himself, over and over.
Okay. I'm an Avenger. I've called the other Avengers.
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?
What?
They all blur together after a while.
That setup leads directly to what's coming: Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, and Secret Wars. In the comics, Secret Wars dealt with entire universes colliding, with fragments of reality crashing into each other and merging into something new. In the MCU, the stakes are just as high. If every universe is valid, then which ones deserve to survive? And who gets to decide? However, these stories only work if they stay grounded. If the multiverse becomes too abstract, too limitless, then nothing matters. The MCU seems to understand this. It keeps returning to the same idea, that even in a world of infinite versions, what matters is the person in front of you. You'll find that Peter, Wanda, Strange, and Loki all wrestle with the same problem. If anything is possible, what's the right thing to do? I guess this is the deeply human question that the MCU poses. The multiverse is not just a spectacle, it's a mirror that reflects our anxieties, our hopes, and our regrets. It asks what version of ourselves we could have become, or still might. It offers second chances, but not without cost. And in doing so, it taps into something older than superheroes, something as old as storytelling itself. Because that's what the multiverse is, a way to tell stories without erasing other ones. It's Marvel's answer to its longevity. With actors aging out of roles, timelines growing too tangled, and audiences changing, the multiverse becomes a way to preserve what matters while still moving forward. A Captain America from one timeline can pass the shield to another. A villain can get a second shot. A hero can fail and still find redemption in some other world, or maybe even in their own. It also lets the MCU lean into its history. Every reference, every callback, every cameo becomes a thread in a much larger tapestry. Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier in Multiverse of Madness, the return of Daredevil, hints of the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and even animated universes. All of it matters. All of it is part of the same vast, tangled whole. But maybe the most important thing the multiverse does is remind us that no story ever really ends. It just changes shape. Even the ones we thought were over, like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or Wanda's Ark, can come back in new forms. Not to undo the past, but to build on it.
Oh my God, this is it! Tell everyone to hang on! Brace yourself!
The MCU multiverse isn't perfect. It can be confusing, messy, and overwhelming, but it's also a bold step forward. It refuses to be boxed in. It opens the door for new voices, new kinds of stories, and new perspectives. And it does all this while staying rooted in what made these characters compelling in the first place. That's the real strength of the multiverse. Not the spectacle, but the intimacy. Not the infinite possibilities, but the single choice that changes everything. Every variant, every branching path is just another way of asking the same question. Who are you, really, when everything else falls away? That's why, as the multiverse expands, the MCU doesn't lose its soul. It rediscovers it, over and over, in every universe where someone still believes that they can choose to do better. Anyway, that wraps up all of MCU's multiverse. Thank you for watching till the end. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the limitless MCU multiverse, so be sure to leave your comments down below. Until next time, bye for now.